Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mondays with Amanda. I'm Amanda Walker. I am a learning and development coach and life coach for parents with uniquely wired kids. Now, you can be a parent of uniquely wired kids, or you might be an educator with uniquely wired kids. What are uniquely wired kids? These are kids that don't fit in the box. These are kids who may or may not have a diagnosis. These are kids that are perhaps sensitive, highly sensitive, right? They might be highly spirited. They might struggle with focus and learning, right? Maybe they have a hard time with authority or following the rules, okay? These might be kids that you get a phone call from school once a week about behavior, and as a parent or an educator, you're stressed out and wondering, what can I do to help these kids, right? Well, never fear. We are here with Mondays with Amanda, and each Monday we talk about tools, books, techniques, and coaching that can help your family or your classroom thrive, okay? As a life coach, I can help you. And the other coaches on our team, especially in our coaching group, are phenomenal, are talented, they have skills, and they are highly supportive of everyone in our coaching group. So welcome to Mondays with Amanda. For those of you who didn't know me, I hope that's helpful in talking about a little bit what we do here. Okay, so this month is exciting. Hi, everyone. When you jump on, please say hi to me. Let me know how you're doing. What's going on with you? If you have any comments or questions, please put those in the chat. You may need to give me permission through StreamYard. It'll be above my video here. Just click on that. Give me permission, or give StreamYard permission, actually, for me to see your name so that I can answer your questions. And I want you to know I'm super excited about this. I learned so much last week doing these discussions with my family. Like, I learned more than I really wanted to learn, I think. I have so much to share with you that I'm hoping will be a benefit to you. If you're feeling like you need to create a tech healthy family or a family tech plan, okay? We hear this all the time from parents and educators, especially parents. We'll talk about that because we're talking about what do we do with, how do we make a tech plan? My child never wants to get off a device, right? Or my kids don't do their homework, or they're not doing their schoolwork because they just want to be on a device, right? It can be very contentious really, really quickly. And when you add on to that, obviously the addictive nature of it, and as humans and adults in life, we love the conveniences of devices, right? I don't want to get rid of my smartphone. Would our family survive and do really well without smartphones? Totally, absolutely. But we don't necessarily want to get rid of them. So how do we create a family together as a team that we can feel confident in and that everyone in the family wants to participate in? Hi, Kirsten. Happy Monday. Thank you. Yes, happy Monday. It is a good Monday. All right. So this month in the group itself, we are going over parts of this book by Andrea Davis. And let me show you a picture of it again, in case you need a little picture. Creating a Tech Healthy Family. So many people asked about how to create a tech plan, what to do about devices and about video games and all the screens that are in our lives, right? And if your child goes to, if they're at home doing school or they're in school, kids are on screens more than ever. I mean, hours and hours and hours a day. So what can we do as a family to cultivate what this month's theme really is about, is connection? Because devices, in some regards, can be connecting, right? Getting on Zoom, talking to family, texting, communicating. But a lot of the time, devices disconnect us, keep us busy, keep us scrolling, keep us, everybody's quiet on a device. And so sometimes it's really tempting to just defer to the device, right? So we're going to talk about the two discussions that we had this week in my family. We did not finish both of the discussions, and I will tell you why. I've got some I've got some great advice. I've got some stories to tell, and I will let you know what's still in process and in creation in our family, because once we got to this second part, because in the book there's 10 discussions, when we got to the second part, it got a little dicey pretty quick. And I don't think this is something that's abnormal. I don't think it's just my family. Like, the conversation you have in the second discussion is really where a lot of people, especially teens and other adults, including myself, can kind of get defensive, can get triggered, and we had to stop our meeting and come back. And we still actually need to come back again, because we could only really talk about a certain amount when we started the second discussion. Okay, but it was really eye-opening and really helpful for me to recognize where I was doing well, and where I was really off my own rails in this conversation. Okay, as you hop on, thank you for saying hi. And let me know when you're watching this later, if it's hashtag live or hashtag replay. If you have a question, I will see the questions and I'll be happy to answer those in here. Let me know if you got the book. I'd love to know if you have the book, if it's coming, if you've done any of the discussions. So over this month, we're going to be talking about some of the discussions, not all of them, but some of them. Andrea also has, and I'll post this, she also has a Facebook group. It's called Better Screen Time Facebook group. And you might be interested in joining that. Okay, so everybody in there is implementing this book at some level. Maybe they've done it for years. There's lots of wonderful resources in there, but I wanted to bring it to you and this group because I know what an influence devices have for good and ill in our families and our classrooms and with the kids that we work with. All right, so let's take a look at my flip chart. There were 2 discussions we had this week. The first one was technology as a tool. The second one was called the Family Tech Plan. Technology as a tool went pretty easy because it was mostly a discussion. It wasn't about any sort of limitation or rule or anything like that. It was just discussing how technology is actually a tool, okay? And down below here are some of the things that I learned along the way. It's not all of it because I have some other things on a paper here because it was actually harder than I thought it was going to be. It really was. A lot of that had to do with what I was thinking. Now, I want to remind you that you might have smaller children, that this might not be something that's really a challenge right now for you. But as time goes on, and along with this book, which is really wonderful, as you go through these discussions, you can do this as just, as the adults in the home, as spouses, or maybe your grandparents raising kids, or maybe you're a single parent, or maybe you're living with family members. Those that care for the child and the family, you can invite them to do this and have this discussion together before you ever even talk to the kids about it. That's one of the things that, depending on the environment of your home, you might consider having some of these discussions with another caring adult in the home or your spouse before you even introduce it to your kids, okay? But with that, like I said, these are the things that I learned, some of the things that I wanted to share with you, and hopefully that'll be a benefit, okay? But before we hop into that, I want to go into our announcements. We always like to start with our wins, and I want to thank all of these coaching clients that are in the coaching group for sharing their wins. We love to celebrate with them, and we love to share with you the results that they're getting in the coaching. And so thank you all for letting us share your stories. We love it. Okay, so this is from Kirsten. It says, #win this evening when C got home from school, I had a mini scavenger hunt set up, giving him clues to follow to get through his routine and give him something to do while I finished with work and my husband got dinner on the table. He was able to get through his routine, do 3 animal walks, and pick an activity to do, all without frustration, arguing, or aggression. This is a time he usually struggles. Yeah, Many of our kids struggle after school. So if they've been in school all day, they come home. Many kids are holding it together at school, trying to behave, right? They've got all of this kind of social pressure to, keep it together and to sit in their seat and to learn, right? And they get home, a lot of our uniquely wired kids kind of just lose it. Sometimes we think, why do our kids like us? What's going on? Why are they so difficult when they get home? For some of our kids, they've held it together long enough now. It's just, they're safe, they're at home, they're with the people that care about them. And sometimes our kids act in ways that I don't think they intend to. But here, Kirsten was thinking ahead, okay, let's create something that he can do. Keep him engaged. Have him participate in some things and help him stay on track. So many uniquely wired kids do really, really well with a visual schedule, with activities that help them. They don't mean to be really, really busy, but just help them, guide them down toward the things that are important in the afternoon and helps give them a purpose. Awesome. Thank you so much, Kirsten, for sharing that. Sarah says, I noticed that Mr. 10 was really upset the night before physical school started. So the night before physical school started for him, he was very stressed and couldn't sleep. We had a narrow rectangular box that he shoved himself into. Think of the squeeze machine in the Temple Grandin movie. So if you haven't seen the Temple Grandin movie and you have a uniquely wired kid, you're going to want to watch that. It's an excellent show. I need to think about how we can implement that high body pressure at school. Obviously, he can't wear a cardboard box. Love it. Sarah, you always have a great sense of humor. Obviously, he can't wear a cardboard box. Oh, yes. So good. So for many uniquely wired kids, if they have some sensory, I don't even know that they're challenges. Let's just say they're sensory uniquenesses, right? Whether they have specific sensory processing that they like to engage in that helps calm their nervous system. And for this little guy, being in a small, tight space helped calm his nervous system. And I'll tell you just really quickly why it works that way. In our muscles and joints, there are receptors, and those receptors send information to the brain and back and forth, okay? Sends information through the cerebellum, which is like the switchboard in the brain, and uses the vestibular system so that the brain knows where the pressure's coming from and how it's coming in. Goes to the brain, and then the brain calculates the information and sends, the information back out, whether the child moves or whatever. But for some kids, for whatever reason, they might not feel their body as others do, okay? So sometimes these kids, it feels, for whatever reason, out of control because they can't really tell where their legs are or their arms are, and it can create an underlying sense of insecurity or anxiety, okay? Or if they're worried about something, then they might want more pressure that helps calm their nervous system or helps them get that input so they know where they're at and they can feel it. So one example that I share oftentimes is with my uniquely wired child. When we would go to church, and she was a young one, she was always getting up all the time. So we would do, as a whole family, we'd go for the first 45 minutes or an hour together. We'd all sit as a family, and then she would go to kind of like the children's learning, right? But when we were all together, she just kept getting up and walking out and getting up and walking out, which is okay, that's cool. But when it was 6 or 7 times, it became disruptive, and the other kids all wanted to leave. So I thought, okay, what's really going on? And so one of the things that my friend had told me about, this is way before, she was probably 5 or 6, but my friend told me about her son who was on the spectrum and how she would kind of squeeze on his arms. He didn't want to be touched lightly, but would be squeezed on his arms like this, and it would calm him down. Well, I started doing that with my daughter when we were at church, and it actually calmed her down. It gave her enough input to calm the nervous system, the sensory system, and she was able to sit there. Okay, that was a long explanation to this this one, but thank you, Sarah, for sharing that. Okay, Lorraine said, we put a limit on tech time because my son was getting a little too intense. it's so far so good. The plus was that I didn't get any pushback on it, right? So Lorraine, as you start tracking behavior, one of the things that she does talk about here in this book, and Lorraine's talking about this, is noticing how your children behave after different types of device use. So if they're on video games, and at what point does this child start getting irritated or frustrated or starts to become dysregulated? Some kids, when they use any sort of device, get dysregulated, okay? Everyone is so unique, and our brains are wired so uniquely that when we watch our kids, we want to notice what is escalating them or creating negative behavior, okay? And then just make note of that. And Lorraine noticed that, thought, okay, we need to reduce this a little bit. And her son was okay with it. And that was a total surprise to her. Because oftentimes kids with, these strong personalities or have sensory challenges, like they don't necessarily always want to do what they're asked. Like they want to do what they want to do. And that's kind of atypical for kids as well. But it's so great that when we can talk to our kids and let them know what we're thinking, and we can work together as a team, and when they are willing to accept those kind of things, it's so awesome. Okay, Amanda says, the connection between me and my daughter has grown stronger this year to where I can use humor with her to kind of get her out of a bad mood. Where in the past, if the connection wasn't there, it wouldn't have been received. We can joke more and lighten stuff up. Yes, great example, Amanda, that when we work on connection with our kids every day for 5 minutes or so, as we increase the connection and the relationship, right, we co-regulate with our kids, we're actually able to communicate on a lot of deeper levels. And for some of our kids, we can actually joke with them. So my uniquely wired kid would usually get offended, but now you're able to joke with her. Because there's a sense of safety. They feel comfortable. They feel accepted, more accepted. And so I love hearing that. So grateful for you guys sharing those things. Okay, let's get back to where we're at. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you, everyone. If you would like to be added to the reminder list, so as you can see, we're tagging a bunch of people, everyone who wants to be tagged in this live. So you have to worry about being here on Monday morning. You might be busy, you might be teaching, you might be at work. If you want to be tagged, just let us know here in this, or in the announcement section of this group, there's a post in there that says, hey, if you want to be added to be tagged in these lives, then put your name there. Okay, so if you have any questions, you go ahead and ask us about that. All right, so let's get to it. You guys ready to get to it? Okay. So here's what I learned, all right? Well, first I want to tell you what we did, and I'm going to show you a picture of it. So when we talked about tech as a tool, there's some amazing questions in here, discussion questions to have. They're great for you as the adult to read through yourself and consider and ponder before you bring them to your family. And I'll talk about this in a little bit about my thoughts about what you can do to prepare for these discussions so that they'll be more productive, so that you will work through some of your own thoughts and feelings about it, because you might be a high-tech person as well, but you might be feeling this like, we need to figure something out. I'm feeling a little out of control. For me, I feel disconnected from my family. I feel disconnected from myself and from my family when devices and screens are what we're doing when we're together. More often than not, okay? So this is what we did. We talked about a few things, and then in the book, it talks about creating 2 lists, and the kids really loved this. We did it as soon as my youngest got home from school, and she brought a friend with her. So I said, hey, we're having a family discussion. Why don't you join us? So everybody grabbed some markers, and we just talked about if a phone is a tool. And in the book, it talks about, this is really cool, basically put the phone in a toolbox and put the toolbox on the table, right? So it creates some curiosity and kind of attention grabbing, right? Then you talk about, well, what's in a toolbox, da-da-da-da-da. Then they open it and there's a phone in there. And the kids were like, there's a phone in there. What's the deal with that? So we talked about how phones are tools and that we want to look at them as tools. And when they stop being a tool that's helpful for us, we want to adjust how we're using them. Okay, so we made a thumbs up list and a thumbs down list. And we just thought of things and we wrote them down. Some were writing, some were sitting at the table. So at this meeting, just so you know, I had my husband, I had my 15, almost 16-year-old uniquely wired daughter. I had a 12-year-old daughter who's gotten a phone sooner than any of my other 5 kids. And then my youngest, who is 8, with her best friend, one of her good friends. All right, so that's the age of it. And so we just made a list of things, and you can see some of these: homework, working on homework, or taking notes, or, using the camera, or being able to text people or call your friend, right? We're able to check the news or the weather. Like, there's so many amazing things that we have on these devices, right? And so we wanted to get those all down and thinking about that. There's so many amazing things you can learn, right? There's awesome entertainment, right? There's things you can watch on there that are inspiring and wonderful, and they build you up and they make you a better person, right? We had on here scriptures, or we had on here church meetings, right? Like, there's all sorts of things that you can put on here. And then we had the thumbs down things. What are the things on devices or screens that are negative, right? I definitely had to explain this to my daughter, my 8-year-old, not knowing what pornography was. But I don't think we put it on here, but we just ended up saying people who are naked. And then just going through cyberbullying, bad words, wasting time, feeling less than or jealous, or we put down FOMO, fear of missing out, right? Pranks or scams can be negative things that happen, right? So it was really cool to talk about this because all my kids were pretty open about coming up with this list. Okay, it wasn't focused on any one person. Nobody had to give their opinion that was like just their opinion. It was just kind of popcorning out ideas, okay? And when we got to the end of this, it lasted probably 15 minutes tops. And at the end of it, my husband said, "Wow, that went really well," because he was not necessarily on board. I mean, he gets that this is important, but he loves his device and was feeling like we'll talk about that with the next one. But he was having some concerns about how to do this. And so there was definitely some resistance in it. Like, if I didn't bring it up, he wasn't going to be like, "Hey, let's work this thing out," right? So that happens in relationships, right? That happens in our lives where maybe one of the adults or the caregivers feel strongly about something, right? And oftentimes we get married, or we are partners with someone who's the opposite of us, right? So they're going to see it differently, which is incredible. We want that. But sometimes it can create a little bit of resistance. And as much as he resisted, I noticed I resisted right back. So there was a bit of a tug of war. But for this first discussion, it went really well. And so we made this list. Now, the next discussion we had was a few days later. Actually, about 5 days later. We got busy. I kind of wanted to do it on Thursday. We got busy, and then people came in town, and, things just happened. But the next discussion was called the Family Tech Plan. And I want you to notice right here that there's nothing on it. We've had 2 meetings. The first one was like 30 minutes. It was too long. And then the second one was about 20 minutes. And when we had the second meeting, so yesterday morning we had one for about 30 minutes. And it ended quite abruptly because that's one of the tips I'm going to give you. But as you can see, nothing's in here. There's nothing been filled out because the jury is still out on what we want to do. Okay. Again, inside of this book, there's amazing discussion questions, really great ones. And I'm going to read a couple for you, and then I'm going to talk to you more about what I learned. That's really kind of overarching for parenting, but for all of these discussions that I think will be helpful. But some of the questions in here are just wonderful. And I again would suggest there's not much to read, and they have great advice. She's really done a good job at asking good questions, how to wrap things up, and encouraging you to let the conversation continue, right? we had this technology as a tool, but we kept talking about it because some of our kids will talk to us in privately different than they will in a group, right? Some feel more comfortable talking in a group, others don't. So once you have that discussion, consider, talking about it over, whether it's a few days or it's a week or 2 weeks, however you want to structure the discussions. I definitely am like, don't go too fast because some of these will take a bit of digesting and considering so that when we create a plan, it's not out of fear, it's not out of force, it's not out of, I'm just going to tell you what you're going to do. Like, we want to get our kids on board with us. And as the adults and the caregivers, we want to have clear boundaries, right? So we know where we're headed, but we really want our kids to be a part of the process of creating it. Okay, long term, it's going to be far more successful that way and effective, getting them on the team. Okay, so just a couple questions in here that were really good I wanted to read. Where in the house should we use our devices? I love that. Where in our house should we use our devices? Should we be in the bathroom? Should we be in our bedroom with the door shut? Right? We talked about in the second discussion, we referred back to this poster. So these are really handy actually. So these are like basically Post-it notes you can put up on the wall. So in our dining room, after we did this, I just put it up on the wall. So it was up for everyone to see. It was like, okay, we're making a delineation between what's good that we can use the devices for, or the computers or the laptops, and things that are negative, things that get in the way, things that can be damaging, right? And so being able to refer to this, we just talked about how the things on the thumbs down list often happen when we're bored or we're alone. That's what happens. So when we understand that about ourselves and about devices, we can make the best choice as a family. Another one was, what are some times of the day we should focus on each other and put devices away? Right? If you have a child who's going to school full time and you're working full time, they get home from school, you get home from work. If we all defrag by getting on devices in the evening, when do we have time to just be together? Right? Like, when are we going to schedule time where there's just no devices? And I tell my kids this, and I remind them that it's good to be bored sometimes. Like, it's actually really important for the creative process, for problem solving, for making connections, for just considering what your thoughts are, what your needs are. Like, it's important that our kids can get bored sometimes and not know what to do, because it triggers their brain to consider other options, right? That could be partly spending time outside. I'm a big advocate of being outside and in nature, right? It could be taking a walk as a family. You don't have to do anything big. It's just, what part of the day are going to be device free so that we can connect, right? Then you can talk about what you want to use on your device. You can talk about what places you like to get on your device, what you enjoy doing. And then this last one I'm going to share with you, because there's a lot more of that. There's probably a good 12 or 13 questions. The other one that my kids thought were really interesting, and we needed to think about it. That's why we're going to have a third little discussion about this to try to pull everything together. But how much screen time does it take before we start to feel irritable and grumpy? Or disengaged? Like, have you ever been scrolling on your phone so much that you kind of don't want to stop? You like don't want to do anything else. And it's like, everyone's quiet. I think I'll just stay on my computer. I can get some more work done, or I can, right? Like, it's really addictive because sometimes it feels easier than engaging with the kids or having a conversation or getting the chores done, right? It's like, oh, this feels it just feels better. And here's why it does, is because our brains want to do what's easy, fun, and something else. It feels good. Basically, we want to not feel bad. Okay? Like all of us are like, I feel like crap. I'm going to have a Diet Coke. I feel tired. I'm going to have some more coffee. I am sad. Me, I'll chew on some chips. Like we don't want to feel negative emotions. Okay? Our brain feels like, okay, we're something's bad's happening. We're feeling bad, so we need to make it stop. Our phones are one of those ways that we kind of just zone out. And it's understandable, but once we start become aware of that and think, oh, well, what are some of my other options that would be healthy? And what do I want to show my kids, right? Okay, so let me see. Thanks, Jen, for putting that in there. Jen, can you also drop the link for the coaching corner? So anybody who would like to have a, what did I call it? I called it not a free gift. It was this quirky thing. A gift away. Yes. So I have some times during the week, each week, that I want to fill up and I need your help. I need you to sign up for these coaching corner calls. They are a free gift for anyone who would like to get on for about 25 minutes with me. We can talk about what's getting in the way and what you need support on and how coaching may be good for you, or I can just send you on your way with some tips and some understandings and just some support overall, right? So, and if you're in my coaching program, sign up in there as well. I would love to have some private coaching calls with you. Okay. And then also, if you're interested in the Thrive Academy, that's a monthly coaching program. We have at least 3 coaching calls a week. You don't have to come to all of those. They're just there for support. Come to the ones that are helpful for you. We help coach you through the movements. We help you with discovering what's really going on and tracking that behavior. We help you with your mindset and getting rid of those annoying negative thoughts and how you can reframe your child's behavior. And really, we just help you get the results you're looking for. We can help you. It's pretty awesome. And we have amazing families in there. So we would love to have you participate. We'd love to help you get the results that you're looking for. Okay? To help your family thrive. Okay? All right. Thank you for posting those. All right. So here we go. Here's what I learned in all of this. Number 1, you need to be patient with the process. Okay, when I decide I want to do something, I actually wish I had already figured it out and it's already done. Like I'm always trying to get stuff done. I think it's probably human nature that we don't want to have things undone, and it might feel, like if I don't do it now, it won't get done. Like those are some of the thoughts that I have. I don't know that that's what everybody thinks, but for me, I can get pretty impatient because I was a little bit nervous about some of these conversations. And so I was like, let's just do them. Let's get them done so that I can talk about them on Monday. And I know they're important, right? So it's like we make a goal. We decide we want to try something. We think it's going to be healthy for our families. And so something here is just to be patient with the process, okay? The second thing I learned was talk to your spouse or the other adults in the household first. Give yourself some time to introduce the book. Give yourself some time for you as the individual to read through it. Consider your own device use. Look at what you're doing and what you could do to shift to help have a healthier relationship with screens or devices. Okay? And I want to tell a little bit of a story here. As I was prepping for this and reading it, I was realizing that I was going to bed scrolling on my phone. Now, I don't think there's anybody here that's listening to me right now that hasn't heard to get off any sort of screens or devices at least an hour before bed. If you haven't heard that, I want you to tell me in there because I want to just send you a little bit more information about that. But I think we've heard that. When we're on a device, okay, when we're like, our brain is processing all this information right before we're going to close our eyes. For many kids and many adults, it's hard to go to sleep. It kind of messes with our circadian rhythm, with the natural release in our body of melatonin to sleep. If we're super engaged or we're even listening to stuff, we're engaging our brain. We haven't given ourselves sufficient time to relax into the evening, so we get tired. Okay. So what I did is I realized, okay, I'm doing this at night. I noticed that I was feeling anxious before I went to bed. I still fell asleep okay, but I could just tell I sort of was tense, and I'd been laying in bed for like an hour, right? All the kids are in bed, and then we lay in bed and look at our phones. Such a millennial thing to do, and I'm not a millennial. I'm not. I'm older than that. So you wouldn't think I'd love my phone so much, but I do. Okay. And no, that was not to be negative about the millennials. I just know that my sisters and brothers who are millennials, like they are okay with their relationship with their phone. Like it's normal. They've had it like forever. I kind of have a love-hate thing with it. I love it, but then I'm like, I never needed that for so long. Why do I need it so bad now? Okay, you're hearing my own thoughts for a second. Sorry if I digressed. Okay, so what I decided to do was I'm going to plug my phone in the kitchen. And in this actual book, I'll talk about it next week probably, is it suggests you making a recharge station for the whole family. So all the devices goes in one spot so that when you guys come from home or when you have the time that it's family time, everybody plugs their devices in one area. Okay. Anyways, and so I plugged this all last week. Like for the last 10 days, I've been plugging it outside of my bedroom. It's been really awesome. So I have a book by my bed. I got a book light, so I didn't have to use my phone to read my book. And it's made a huge difference. Number one, I'm sleeping longer. I feel more relaxed when I go to bed, right? And I wanted to practice it myself to say, well, what do I think? Because when I shared that, my own personal story with my family, it's far more powerful than just saying, hey, I think this is a great idea. We should just do it. It was like, hey, I felt like it was too much and I felt stressed. And there's just a part of me, my conscience was like, okay, you need to get the phone away from your head. Because the first thing you do, if you wake up, you look at your phone or you pick up your phone. It's like, if it's not there, you actually have to think about something else or just go back to sleep. And so really great. I think I'm gonna totally keep up with it. I don't want my phone in my room. I use it during the day in here because it's also my office, but at night I'm going to plug it in out there, and I generally plug it in about 7:30 or 8 so that I have a full hour without a device. And honestly, if I'm working with my kids, we probably need to plug it in a little bit earlier than that, just so that we can defrag, we can start to get into the rhythm of the evening. And they call this having, sleep hygiene. Right? Getting your body ready to actually sleep. Okay. So again, talk with the adults in your home, get their opinions, be open to what they're thinking. I was not super open to my husband because I think he's on his phone too much. And I think he should want to do what I want to do. I'm being really honest with you right now. So my thinking around it wasn't super healthy and it wasn't really helpful. And it made this conversation go longer and be kind of awkward and weird a couple of the times, just to be honest about it. And I'll talk a little bit more about that too. Okay, cool. Number 3, notice your own dysregulation. So we talked all last month about the power of our own self-regulation to help co-regulate with the people in our lives. And that as humans, we help regulate one another. I was very dysregulated. Like I was stressed. I was thinking in my head, my husband doesn't want to have this meeting right here. And he was sitting with his arms folded like this. And I just was like, see, he's got his arms folded. He doesn't want to be here. Totally dysregulated me. Made me irritated and defensive. And my kids, bless their hearts, were like, oh, mom and dad are kind of being intense here. Like, how are we supposed to have this? So all I'm saying is if that happens to you, number one, it's okay, right? Because everything we experience, we're learning from. And thankfully, I was able to take a step back after I kind of freaked out a little bit when it was over, because it was like right before church and we're like, oh, we got to go to church, right? So it just abruptly stopped. But inside the book, it says, hey, if somebody gets triggered with any of these, commit to stop the meeting and come back later when everyone is feeling ready to discuss it. Now, she was alluding to teenagers who were, not being helpful. And I was like, it was me. I was leading it. And I was the one kind of dysregulated. So notice your own dysregulation. Don't shame yourself. Just notice that if you're going into the situation with anxiety or fear or worry or thinking your partner or the other adult doesn't want to have it, I would suggest not having the meeting until you can work through this, even if it takes a week or 2 weeks, right? Because what I wanted to do, and it didn't happen, was I wanted to feel like we were united with the kids so we could make a family plan. What it ended up being was our kids kind of were like, Mom and Dad aren't on the same page. I don't know what to say. This is really uncomfortable. So just a word to the wise, okay? Number 4, stay curious and breathe. I was not being that curious during the conversation. I kind of had an agenda. I wanted to make sure it got done because if we didn't do it, we might not have it. And this isn't just because of the live today. Like I have that thought a lot. I'm a very action-oriented person. And so I often just sort of like, if I don't do it now, it's not happening. And then it like feels forced and uncomfortable. And there's sometimes emotional carnage around. Not perfect, but I've learned over time that when I remember to stay curious and to breathe, oftentimes what I think is a problem is really an illuminating idea, something that I didn't consider, right? And oftentimes our spouses or the other adults in our homes, they probably have a different opinion than you. And so do some of your kids, right? But if you can stay curious and make sure you're still breathing, then you can create this family tech plan over time. And I'm saying, like I said, there's going to be one more of these meetings. And it still is a work in progress. It's not like we're going to write this thing down and go, this is it, and it's staying. No, it's always going to be a work in progress because things change, right? Kids get older. There's other needs. Schedules change, right? So this needs to be flexible, but we're really wanting to figure out, okay, what's the goal here? Why does this matter? And I didn't add that here, but that's what my husband brought up. What he brought up was, I don't think, and he didn't say it quite this way, but this is how we ended up talking about it. I don't understand why we want to do this because I don't know exactly what we're shooting for, like bigger than just a family tech plan. Which if you're in my coaching group, we talk about this, creating a vision, right? Creating a vision board. What do you want in 20 years your family to be like, right? And my husband and I, we're very clear about what we're creating, but we don't have it written down. It's not like up where we can see it. And for him, he was like, I feel like we need to talk about like what our family is about so we can refer to it when we have to talk about the family tech plan. Was actually brilliant. Super annoying to me because it didn't follow the discussion. But after we took a break and I breathed, I thought that's actually really, really wise. He's not clear about why we would want to make this plan. Let's get clear. How can we get clear together? And so that's something to keep in mind. Okay, because sometimes kids are like, well, why do we even care what we do on this, right? So what's your family about? We're not going to go in deep about that, but think about what are your values? What do you care about? And that might be a precursor to actually doing this, considering what kind of family are we trying to create? What matters to us? And like I said to you in the very beginning, communication and connection, and service are like some of the things I super value, like with my own kids and my own family. Not everybody has the same value per se, but there's some that we share, and that if we can put it down on a document, put it up and say, hey, this is what we care about, then we can check ourselves, right? Yeah, we can check ourselves. And that was important to my husband. I didn't know that until we had the meeting, but it was something really good that came out of it. Keep it short and simple. Do you want to see the cup I bought myself? Is that kind of narcissistic? I don't know if you can see it. Best mom in the history of ever. I know it's Mother's Day soon, but I saw it and I thought, I love the shape. I want to get it for myself. So Hopefully that's not too narcissistic. Keep it short and simple. We've talked about this already. It's okay to make it short and to cut it before the kids don't want to be there anymore, right? So look at the cues. What are your kids giving you as a cue? If this is a really triggering conversation, you might want to just say, hey, 5 minutes, let's set a timer. Here's a question, let's talk about it. Right? Maybe it's at the dinner table. I have a question for you. I want to, Dad and I talked about this, or Grandma and I talked about this. We want to talk about like why we use devices and what's a good way to use them, and that type of a thing, which might turn on alarms for teens. But you might ask one question every day at dinner or every day at breakfast and just discuss one thing. And then you can come back and talk about some of these other things. So keep it a conversation that's not like all or nothing, right? You want this to be something that's at ebb and flow, because like I said before, some kids won't tell you everything they're thinking or that they're concerned about or that they're worried might happen when we make this plan, except when they're in private with you, okay? So if you cut off the meeting, it doesn't get to the end for whatever reason. For me, I was actually being kind of, I wasn't super regulated. And so I was like, okay, we need to go to church. And all the kids were like, oh, good, let's go. But make sure you follow up and take it slow. Seriously, follow up. Right? So don't go, oh, that didn't go very well. That sucked. Oh my gosh, I screwed it up again. La, la, la. Right? We can have all these conversations. And it's actually quite helpful to consider what you're thinking. And the way that I teach this in the coaching group is notice what you're feeling. If you're feeling irritation or frustration or even happiness and joy, what you can do is say, what am I thinking right now? What am I thinking about the circumstance that I'm in? What am I thinking about how this meeting is going, right? So when I was feeling irritated and like, what are you actually saying? Like, just come out and say it. I'm thinking in my head, realizing I'm like, oh, I'm irritated because I think he doesn't want to be in this meeting and that he just wants to totally change what we're doing and like sidetrack us with some other idea, right? So when I'm thinking that, how do you think I show up? Number one, I'm irritated, and then I show up not very patient. I'm kind of like restating his words sort of with, an edge. So it didn't go really well. So my results were that Mom and Dad were sort of bickering and the kids were all sitting there like, I'm not saying nothing, Okay, that is like true confessions from Amanda. All right. But, so if you feel discouraged, it's okay, right? Every family is different. Everything and conversation is going to come along at the speed or the way that it needs to come for your family. I just want you to trust that process, okay? And the more that you stay curious with your own thoughts about it, right? You might need to do these things first before you even come to your family and talk about it, okay? Because our own personal experience that we share with our kids and our family is far more powerful than just talking about what might be a good idea, right? So I shared with my kids, listen, the last 10 days I've had this out of my bedroom and I've slept better. I've felt more regulated when I went to bed. I wasn't thinking, I got to get off. I got to stop watching this. I got to stop doing this, right? It was like I pick a book that's a novel that kind of I'm going through the story and I can relax. Some people don't even read before bed, depending on what you do. But for me, it was a great switch. And sharing that with my family without reflecting on that, saying, hey, I find this really valuable. Maybe we could talk about this. Maybe there's some value here for the whole family, if that makes sense. Okay. Jen says, I love the idea of a family charging station. I'm halfway there with it. Oh, good. So we did come to, on the family tech plan, we did decide that nobody needs a phone in the bathroom for when you're on the pot or if you're taking a shower to listen to music. It's kind of like phones in the bathroom are probably not a great thing. Because just, I know that my daughter was in there talking to her friend. I'm just like, let's just not talk in the bathroom. I don't know who you're talking to, and it just makes me anxious. So please send the phone out of the bathroom, right? So that was one thing that we did agree on, was no phones in the bathroom. And that everybody was really quite open. They understood. They were like, yeah, I know. I felt like I was better last week, but this week was a little worse. Like, we were having some real conversations about it with the teens. Like, they were being honest about how they felt about it. Yeah, I just feel like I might be on there too much. So that was a cool thing to be talking with them, and it was valuable. But we also have to figure out when is device time okay, and when is there the specific where everybody plugs in their device, and I don't have to feel like the babysitter. Because I don't want to be the babysitter. That's what I said. I don't want to be the babysitter. It's not any fun for me. No fun. Not fun. Okay. Let's see if you guys have any questions. I see some of you on here. Anybody have a question for me or a concern that you might have? Go ahead and put it in the chat. Have you ever had a family tech plan meeting? How did it go? What did you learn from it? Are you planning on having a family tech plan meeting? Are you thinking about getting this book? I'd love to know what you guys are thinking. I'll give you a minute or so. Will you put that in there? Okay. Thank you for the heart, by the way. I love hearts. It's awesome. Okay, I do want to let you know oh, those are good questions. Okay, I am on a call a lot, so that is a hard point when I have to have it near at all times. Also, small ones have their TV, so I'm bored a lot. Yeah. So every family is unique. And here's the thing, because you are the caregiver, you're the parent, you will receive inspiration for that, for sure. So I know that my husband, it was important to him. He's like, listen, I run my construction business on my phone. Like, I can't just not be on my phone, right? Same thing here. Like, I run a family. We have to have this phone. I think it's the spirit and the intention of when we're going to create that family time without any devices. Right? And then the clarity of what are we okay with and where can a child be with a device? If my kids are in the front room and they're all on a device, at some point we're going to be like, okay, we're all bored. Let's go do something else. But when we're all in our own room and my uniquely wired child kind of gets all balled up and she's like scrolling, she's like in a fetal position. And every time I look at her, I'm like, I just don't like that. Something about it. It's obviously just me. But I'm like, she looks too like she's almost like become one with her phone. Okay, suggestions on how to go through this process with a 4.5-year-old. Same questions, Melody. Same questions, but thinking about at his age, what would be those thumbs up things? What are things that we do on our phone that are really helpful? And then thumbs down, like, does he ever get grumpy? Has he ever made that connection? Or what about when you guys are on your devices so much and he wants your attention, right? You might be able to make some connections about your device use in relation to how he feels about that, right? Does mom and dad not really want to go outside because they're busy on this, right? And obviously, if we're working at home, we have that balance to have. But when it is family time, what do we want to do with one another, right? And he, as a 4.5-year-old, might go, well, I don't want to all just sit on the couch being on a device like all night, but maybe for a little bit, and then we could go do that, right? So that would be my suggestion. We have a lot of families in here that have younger kids. So, and then this is also, you might not have the meeting with him yet or the discussion with him. You might just do this with your spouse and say, okay, and one of the discussions in here is about what apps at what time and what age. And she has them kind of in a tier that she tells you how she did it with her families. Of course, you do it the way that you feel inspired to do it. But like at this age, this is all they have. And then at that age, you can add 1 or 2 apps or whatever. So you kind of come up with a game plan so that when your child gets to that age, you're like, hey, we've already talked about this. Here's the plan. This is how it works in our family, right? So this is similar. It's kind of silly, but I remember that when I was a girl, My parents, it's totally arbitrary. I don't know why, but they're like, when you're 14, you can get your ears pierced. Because my mom didn't have her ears pierced, like nobody had her ears pierced. So it was just kind of like that. And then also there was like, when you turn 12, you can like wear lip gloss and you can wear mascara. like, and I have so many girls. It was like at some point I had to say, okay, Libby, you're 8. You can't wear rouge to school, right? Like you're kind of going, oh, age appropriate. So it's the same thing with a phone. And so I think you're actually in a really good place, Melody, because you're ahead of the curve. You're ahead of the curve, and you can start talking about that. I did want to mention that I think I'm going to look into Bark. So Bark is one of those apps you can have on your phone that actually it can basically you can control your child's device. And I think it's really important to have these conversations first and then come up with a plan. And then if you need to with some kids, and this does have to happen with my uniquely wired child because she just sometimes just won't get off. Her conception of time like kind of morphs. Like she doesn't have this natural executive functioning sense of time. But on Bark, it also will look through your child's texts or through the apps, and it can identify if there's any disturbing behavior or conversations or bullying. Like it's kind of a protective measure as well. And honestly, I'm already getting quite a bit of that with my uniquely wired child, like people getting on her social media and posting sad and mad, like things about her. And she's like, I don't understand why. So these apps can be so destructive, especially to teen girls, that I really, really am a huge advocate of figuring something out that's going to work for your family. Make sure that you have some security and the support that you need as a parent so you're not going nutso making sure everything happens. So there are some apps and some tools that can be really, really helpful in that. Okay. Let's see here. We have some definite routines and restrictions with the kiddos. I love to have more conversations with my husband about our own tech use. Yes. So here's the thing. If you're kind of a low tech person, like I was never on Facebook, literally, until I went online with Whole Brain Connections. And that was about a year and a half ago. I was never on Facebook. Like I had way too many things to do. I was on every now and again, like when we did a family picture or something. And so I love Facebook. I love our community. It's such a blessing and such a gift. And I love what I do, but it's changed my relationship with devices. My husband, on the other hand, is really device heavy. Like he does everything on it. He reads his books on it. He reads the news on it. He watches something. He listens to tons of podcasts. Like most all of it is really valuable. And so I can't say, oh, don't do that. It's just, how do we want to model it to our kids? And are we off kilter? So it's a conversation it's worth having. It's worth starting, staying curious, right? And notice when you're dysregulated, and notice what thoughts you're having about your spouse or your kids. Notice what thoughts you're having, because it's usually thoughts that create these negative feelings. And so if you think of your thoughts like, oh, well, maybe my husband was okay with having this meeting. Maybe I'm just being really judgmental right now. Maybe he just needs a little bit more time, right? So I was able to shift some of my thoughts over a day or so. It took me some time because it really triggered me. It just came up for me. And this is something, devices and television and stuff. I'm a pretty low television person as a general rule. And since we homeschooled for like 25 years, we didn't do a ton of television. You can't do television all day and do homeschool. Like it doesn't work. And so we see things differently. And that's going to be the case with the other adults in your house. It usually is. Okay. So don't be surprised by it. Look for their perspective and how they can bring the way that they see it into the conversation, because I would bet you some of your kids are going to feel the way that your spouse or the other adult feels, right? So that means that somebody's advocating for the way that they see it and what's important to them. Okay. We're almost at an hour. Can you believe it? You could always adjust some TV time and do something together. In the upcoming connection workshop, we'll be giving you some resources and ideas on non-tech activities you can do as a family. Thank you, Jen, for reminding us about that. I do want to tell you, on the 28th, I wrote it down here, on May 28th, we're having our connection workshop, okay? So if you want to learn why connection is so important, how to do it really well with yourself and with a uniquely wired child, with your spouse, we're going to be talking all things connection. And the power it has to transform your relationship, to create the home and the harmony that you want, so that when you come home in the evenings, you have an enjoyable house to hang out with your kids, where you can work through challenges. Connection is so key to helping our kids succeed. And so we have the workshop on May 28th. Again, we'll have an early bird special, very similar to the other ones, $47. I don't have the page built yet. It will soon be built. If you join the coaching program, you get all the past workshops and all the current workshops. So you are welcome to join the coaching. We'd love to have you in there. We'd love to answer your questions, to support you, to help your family really get the results that you're looking for. I know I say that all the time because everybody's results are different. Everybody has a different goal, what they're going for, what's important to them, what they're struggling with right now. And what's so wonderful about the group is that we can adjust to what's going on for you, and we can support you where you need to be supported. Okay, we can help you shift your thinking where you need to be shifting your thinking. We can help you with your own personal plans, right? And getting feedback and support when you're just struggling and you need some help, okay? So I promise you, being in the coaching program, you will get incredible results. We can help you meet those needs. Okay. Martha says, the kids have limits on theirs, so it is much easier. A lot here is more of attention getting if we are using our devices and they think we are checked out. Yeah, absolutely. So that's the idea of going, okay, when are we, especially when kids are little, right? Because I know yours are littler. Considering when you want to use your devices, and if it's easier for you to use them once they're in bed, once they're doing something else. I know there was a lot of time when I was raising my kids, and I still am, that I would limit my use to times that were early in the morning before everybody woke up. I was just too busy. 6 kids in homeschooling was crazy. So before they got up, because they would become annoying to me. They would become a distraction, and I would be impatient with them when I was trying to do stuff on a device. So I couldn't do both very well, and I wasn't willing to check out. There was just too many needs, too much stuff going on. And so you might consider, hey, when could we do these things? Or can we tag team? I'll go help them with some stuff, and then grandpa go helps them with some stuff. Just consider what's there. Be curious, try some stuff out, make some adjustments. Okay, TV is definitely an issue in our house. So here's the thing that's at least nice to know. Screen time is screen time, but addictive-wise, these things are highly addictive. The television is way less addictive. And especially when you see what they're watching, or you're watching it together, right? And then you're like, okay, that was enough. Let's all get off and do something else. But your little guy, 4.5, TV is going to be a high priority for sure. So just creating a schedule of that's going to be helpful, that feels good to you as parents, then I just encourage you to start kind of implementing that and then adjusting it as you need to. Okay, awesome. All right. If you have any questions, make sure you jump on a coaching call. I would love to meet with you. No high pressure sales, just so you know. I don't get on a call with coaching clients and try to sell them on anything. I just want you to know what is available to you in support, and that's available to you in coaching. If you want to learn a little bit more, if you'd like to get an idea of what it would be like to be coached, then sign up for one of these coaching corners. I would love to meet you. We work with amazing families who have kids on all over the place with the different diagnoses or challenges, uniquenesses, right? There's nothing really that we haven't dealt with. So we love to work with you. We would love to help support you because a lot of families feel so alone. They feel like they don't know where to turn, or they might be even embarrassed to turn or have a conversation. Maybe you're a little bit more private. Like, you can stay more private if you want to. Nobody has to know all your business. You can definitely just come on and listen. You can participate that way. But I work with families who want to have more peace in their home, to be able to problem solve in a way that feels good, and to be able to help their kids really, really live an amazing life, right? And to help them see that they're pretty amazing and that they can be the hero of their own lives, that they can recognize their gifts and their talents, and they can change the world. Like, that's the big picture of all of this. This isn't about fixing anything that's broken. This is about helping you get the results and the help that your family, that you really, really want, that you're looking for. And it's really to help you take action and have progress. So again, I will post it again. I know it's here in the feed. I'll post it in the group. So you have access to join the coaching or get on a coaching call, and also be added to the reminder list. So everybody, it was so great to be with you. Next week, I don't know the name of next week. I know it's posted in the group, but next week we're going to be talking, how about I just look that up? Let me look here. It shouldn't be too far off here. Next week, what are we talking about? We are talking about next week. Oh, here we go. How can rules keep us safe, right? So we're going to have a discussion. I'm going to have a discussion this week with my kids, how rules keep us safe and why rules are important, and how we can create rules together as a family that we feel good about, right? Both as a parent and the responsible caregiver, as well as the kids, as they have a say in the matter and they start to kind of conceptualize why rules matter. And so we're going to talk about that next week. And with all of that, I will say have a beautiful week. I will be in the group answering questions or asking questions. I'm encouraging you to sign up for the coaching so I can get to know you a little bit better. You can get to know me a little bit better. And everyone else who's in the coaching group, I will see you tomorrow and for sure on Thursday. Take care, everyone. Love you.